have one on my iPad, I have two other phones. So in reality, you look at both on voice penetration and data itself penetration, internet penetration, we could be looking realistically in terms of humans, not devices. Device penetration, yes, but humans could be looking around 40%. Go next. And then on the infrastructure space, six submarine cables, 96,000 kilometers of terrestrial and submarine fiber cables in space. 21 plus data centers, many of them of course are tiered and plenty tiered ones. NCT says there are 220 million subscribers in terms of penetration, and 90 million, about 79.6 or thereabout internet users. The infrastructure is huge, the space is huge, and I'm going to tie this to how it supports e-governance, or how it's critical to e-governance itself. Now, of course, you know that if you look at the bottom left of the screen, there is so much capacity in the space available. Go next. Just one slide. The challenge is how do we move these capacities inland? So we have a challenge of Minoma, or what we call the backbone, and of course on the metro and the assets, which is where the bulk of infrastructure gaps exist, and we need to upscale on that space. Subscriber side base, MTN of course is huge, 85 million subscribers, Glo has about 61, Airtel 60, and then Mobile reports around 13 million subscribers. So essentially 220 million people have access to digital platforms, and that's where our digital enablement and e-governance discussions should start from. And I'm going to also show how these numbers and how this is critical to e-government development space. Go next, please. Then this is another ecosystem that is not a very big ecosystem, but a very important ecosystem, the local ICT ecosystem that supports this whole telecom and digital space. Go next. Okay, so you can see an array of local players who are doing a lot of work in this space. They are not the very big guys, but they are actually the very interesting disruptors who are also part of this ecosystem and providing digital services to the industry. Go next. Then I want to talk about this. This is, of course, Galaxy backbone as well, with the kind of infrastructure that is unique and can serve e-governance that it possesses. It has 2 data centers on record now, has 5,000 kilometers of fiber, has 28 states connected, and 54 cities. Challenge is that most of this infrastructure today is just basically for internet access. So there is, of course, the requirement to also upscale these capacities to become a digital service platform. Go next. This is the 2 and 3G map of Nigeria. Now, of course, if you look at this map coverage, on the surface you can think we are all covered, but there is a whole lot of gaps still. A lot of gaps. If you go next, you see the 4G and go next. You see the 4G and fiber map of Nigeria. It gets scantier, And the key thing is that connectivity is useless unless it's meaningful, which is why even in the ITU, we're now talking about meaningful connectivity, not just connectivity, but meaningful connectivity. And what is meaningful connectivity? It's connectivity that can actually create affordable access. That yes, it creates the capacities you need, but it's also affordable and it's available for it, and then that's meaningful connectivity. Go next. Next. Okay, so how does this digital infrastructure tie to e-governance? The next frontier, I would say that the future of telecom infrastructure is hyper-connections and digital interactions. So where are the hotspots? The cloud, pervasive fiber or wireless local loop and satellite, then data centers, mobility, 4, 5G and 6G that is in the works. Then connected everything. Of course, we moved from just talking about internet of everything to the connectivity of everything. And then we'll also be looking at open access, which I know that a couple of people have talked about it in this panel, during the keynote speeches. Open access and disaggregation. You're building out infrastructure, but they don't have to be repeated. Someone else can come in and layer on those infrastructure and provide services. Goodness. Now, as happens within mature ecosystems, what's going on in telecom, of course, is maturing and is moving to the ecosystem model. It's moving to the ecosystem model. Okay. So, of course, if the telecom infrastructure space is moving to the ecosystem model, what's the ecosystem model? Goodness. What's the ecosystem model? You now have the telecom providers themselves. They now have networks, companies who are providing you the infrastructures you need. Then, of course, hyperscalers are in the guys who essentially provide the platform and cloud solutions. Then, of course, you have the system integrators and user device and software vendors. Now, the key thing is that, goodness. The key thing is, no, go back a minute. The key thing is that e-government services will be leveraged on this entire ecosystem. And I'll show you quickly how, go next. Next as well. Okay, so this is the traditional infrastructure model where even the licensees, even the regulators are licensed. They talk about this traditional infrastructure model where you just build out the passive connection, build out the active devices, and of course, common on layer for solutions. Now, if you lose sight of the base telecom infrastructure base, everything else that is services, whether it is e-government or digital empowerment, you lose it. And that's why telecom infrastructure is totally critical to sustenance, even development and sustenance of e-government within the ecosystem. Go next. Okay, so we'll talk about this UN EGDI earlier. EGDI is measured on 3 composite models. They talk about the online service index, which essentially talks about your government's capability to move services online, maybe your websites and communicate to the citizens. Then there is the human capital index, which essentially talks about the citizens' capability and willingness to use government services. These are 2 things, the capability and the willingness. And then, of course, the big elephant in the room is the telecom infrastructure index. Now, everything else that we're measuring rides on this index, because without this, the pervasive connectivity that the telecom infrastructure index provides, you are actually not going anywhere. So go next. Okay. Nigeria, of course, you talked about Nigeria's being to Nigeria is the 140 in the ranking out of 193 countries. Just after Denmark, Finland, South Korea, New Zealand, Sweden, and the rest of them. Now, the interesting thing is that the first 10 countries in this ranking have an almost EGDI of 1. So essentially, they're saying they practically digitize the entire government infrastructure. And a very interesting case is Denmark and Estonia. And that's the case study I was showing you. They practically moved everything they do, every citizen engagement, every business engagement, everything, including government-owned internal business, is already moved to the cloud. Goodness. Now, how many people are aware of this site? Goodness. Okay, how people are aware of this site? This is Nigeria.gov.ng. This is our own government, official government portal. Who knows of this site? How many people have used it? You can know of this. How many people have used this site? Use this site for services. But you can see how scanty the hands are in the room. But this is our official government portal that gives you access to the entire spectrum of government interactions. Go next. But of course, I'm sure we've also heard of this office called Semicon.
The time is up.
2 minutes. So we've also heard of this office called Semicon. If you look at the mandate of this office and look at the e-government issues, they are totally aligned. Now, perhaps one of the things you need to look at is how you can actually allow Semicon to use e-government tools and also to monitor its processes. Go next. Go next as well. Okay, so quick thing, go next. So quick thing on here is how the evolution of e-government happens with the e-government roadmap. Is either you're doing your mentioned presence, which is just you coming in on board, just building out the basic infrastructure, and then enhanced presence, transactional presence, and connected presence. In our situation today, Maybe 5 years ago, we were just on the election process. I think we are in between enhanced and transactional projects. And I'll tell you why. A lot of government services have moved online, but there is a big challenge. There's a challenge of giving government to employees. There are online services, but within that online service and the populace and the citizens, there is no access to those services. Some of them are for several reasons. I mean, if you go to CAC, for instance, you want to register a company and all, the portal exists and is live and is active. But there is another economic activity group that makes sure that the portal does not work. Which is why, even in UN's own measure, there is an online service in there, and there is a human capital index which measures the willingness of the government and the promoters and the agencies to allow e-government to work. And that's one of our biggest issues, that willingness to let e-governance work. And the goodness, and then this is just a case study of two countries that are using e-governance and using it properly, Estonia and Singapore. Services in each of these places are mostly online and public. In fact, their e-government index is almost 1. So Singapore is around 0.8, 0.98, and then Estonia is around 0.9, so close to 1, which means they have essentially all government services online. And what is one of the things that has happened? Telecom infrastructure. They have pervasive telecom infrastructure that straddles the entire length and breadth of the country. My goodness, there are of course, we can use this for several services and then goodness. So, takeaways for me, goodness. Takeaways for me is whether it is to provide citizen engagement, smart business, smart government, digital inclusion, connected communities, and you can see there's a tie between this, what the traffic patterns. Digital traffic patterns are on, and then how broadband consumption happens in certain cities in Lagos. And this is using big data to also set up e-government models. And then the last, of course, is digital literacy. We've talked around this over and over. Until people understand how important digital literacy is, they are actually not able to layer those infrastructure and services that are required in industry. Goodness. So that's my time. Thank you.
What exactly are we going to do differently? And my next question is going to go to Mr. Eric. I know we are going to crunch statistics too well. I'm sure it is possible.